Hello? Hello? Yeah, how about now? No? Hello? Hello? No sound?
Hi, can you hear me?
How about now? Then you just record the monitor. Hello? How about now? Hello? Yeah. Hello? Can you hear it? Right? You gotta switch this. You can do. Right. Okay. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
How about now?
You know,
Yeah.
last time I couldn't get to submit my homework, and this time I couldn't get to do my homework because I got two backlogs.
Okay.
So can I get a little extension? I can probably do it. I had too much stuff going on, so I
Okay,
just,
no problem.
thank you.
Yeah.
What do you will you just reset the time or something?
I will just go and reset the time. On
Thank you
both
so
of
much.
them, yeah.
Hello? Oh, hello? Hello, testing 1, 2, 3. How about now? You good? That's good, huh?
My goodness, here's the man.
Hi, Raj.
Great.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. How are you doing? It's been so long, man. It's been 10 years. You haven't changed that.
You haven't changed either. Maybe a little bit of weight. Looking like that.
Oh, yeah. That too, that's
That. Okay.
had
Awesome.
a baby boy 4 months ago.
Okay. Awesome. So come and stand here.
Yeah.
So, this thing stopped working. So we're going to stand approximately here.
Yeah.
Maybe you can stand to the back. You can stand closer. Okay. And what we'll do is, yeah, you can see it? You can hear us? Okay. Okay, perfect. So these are my slides.
Okay.
And what we'll do is, I'll just go ahead
You want to
and
lead with this.
I'll just do the slides.
Okay.
And then, it's all standard stuff, about what selling is today. And what I'd like to see is have you give examples of sales that represent this particular situation on the slide. Okay. So the first one is that, selling today requires all of this thing.
Hello?
That means you sell in every direction. You don't just sell your product to the
No.
person who's buying.
Is it number 2?
You have to sell it to the client's management, the buying committee. You got to know what the competitor is doing, all that stuff, right? And the new skills that are needed are solution selling, so that you're not just selling a product, you're trying to solve, figure out the customer's pain, etc. You're doing competitive selling, you're handling long sales
A
cycles.
lot of this has changed in SaaS. I know this is not focused only on SaaS.
No.
This is on everything.
Yeah, so just look at it as everything.
Okay. So you don't want to focus on one or the other. And you don't want to, the reason I say so is because if you look at selling today in the SaaS,
That's a different,
so different.
very different, completely different. Yeah. No, this is more like an enterprise B2B selling.
Sure.
This is what we used to do.
Same thing. SaaS is saying B2B selling too.
Well, you may want to bring the point up
Okay, fine.
that when it's massive licenses and massive multi-year contracts, etc. There is one way that you sell. If you're selling SaaS, what is the approach that you take?
Got it.
Multiple buyers, stakeholders, and then strategic selling together. Right? So this is kind of the whole selling environment
No
today,
problem.
right? And so you can just, you worked in several companies after selecting them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just say, okay, in this company when I worked,
Okay. Yeah. This will be perfect for the Oracle kind of a sales process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you may want to say that, in Oracle, this is approximately what we did in sales, right? If you're in a big company.
Okay.
And
Could I even draw some differences in Oracle versus Salesforce? Is that what I did?
of course, do that. Yeah. Basically, this is a group that pretty diverse crowd, from early stage entrepreneurs to people who are directors at Cisco and so on, at HP, directors and so on. And so what I'll do is, maybe initially, we'll just maybe have you give a 5-10 minute summary of your sales career.
Okay.
Just talk about, how you started sales. Was selected your first one in sales? Or did
In
you do
enterprise
sales?
sales.
Oh, you've done sales before? Yeah. Okay. So we'll start with even before that. Okay, so that's selling today. Oh, yeah, literally behind even the competition. Oh, now I remember you were the standing in the booth and we picked you up.
Exactly. You a boss.
Oh, Jesus. So why don't you start with that?
Okay.
Start with like how you got connected with us,
Okay. Perfect.
and then the next one is there are salespeople with all kinds of talent, right? People who are just beginning in the sales career, all the way to people who are very very sophisticated salespeople, and people who can basically just focus on competitors' product versus somebody who can focus all the way to the competitor's stack. So the skill, people who just sell at the product level here. Here's my client, here's my product, all the way to, hey, I want the whole organization to.
INC, interesting.
Yeah, so it's basically somebody who finally becomes so connected with the executive level.
This is the key slide. Yeah.
So this is all the different kinds of sales techniques.
We start at 6:30, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all the different kind of salespeople, right? From teller, seller, hunter. So I'll just go through this.
Yep.
You can also pitch in and talk about, either from your personal experience or from people other salespeople that you work with.
Sure.
Who were great hunters, who were great farmers, who were great business developers, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the next one is how do you create demand in an organization? They may not think that they have any need, but you stimulate latent demand by creating a vision for a solution, which we did all the time. Companies basically, nobody thought they needed a configurator.
Nobody knew what a configurator was.
Nobody knew what a configurator was.
Remember when we were at Capital One, we went Bank One at that time. Right? We went in and we actually had them speak with Sanjay on what configuration means the packet for the industry. He said, to me, so if you go back inside, that is, we were creating that environment for them. They did not know the need of configurator. We went and told them that configurator meant something in their business. Exactly. But that's when Sanjay came in, and that's when the whole sales cycle started.
Okay.
On the plane.
In the yeah. So I got him to buy it. So he had no idea what a configurator was, what a selector was. But he only knew that the online market was saying, he only knew about Dell and Cisco.
Yeah.
And,
and I can talk a lot about, demand creation today is so different. when you talk about some strategies we use and things like that as well. Yeah, this has definitely changed. Yeah.
Then the fact that there are 4 levels of selling. You sell at the individual level, you can sell at the opportunity level, committee or whatever. You can sell at the account level, etc. Or you can sell at industrial market level. And at each level, you're going to use different sales tools and talents, but you still need to have a consistent
I
plan.
keep it in case study. Do they have a case study on Selectica that they're using for this or no?
No, but they know what's Selectica because I've did that in the previous two classes.
Okay.
And initially, obviously, we were at this level, but by the time we became the industry leader, we were selling at all 4 levels.
You have to.
So basically, to dominate, you need a enterprise level strategy to dominate.
And one thing you can bring up here, if you look at Michael Moore's crossing the chasm, if you look at the front end of the curve, most people are these individuals who will buy something because it's new, because they want to make a bet on it. But as you cross the chasm, you have to sell at this level in order to get adopted by others.
Next one is when you have benefits, you can have feature benefit, or you can have operational benefit, or you can have something that is cultural, or where the benefit is that we try something new, or you can have financial, which is ROI, which is very common for organizations, where it's politically risky, or you want a strategic advantage. The customer wants a strategic advantage. Typically, the executive is operating at a strategic level, the department operating, or individual operating at this level. And if you manage to sell high, then these issues become very irrelevant. So the question is what is the approach you should use while selling? So basically, executives look for tools and capabilities at lower levels that help them get a strategic advantage, while the salesperson has to start at the highest level possible so that he can get an advantage in the sales cycle.
That's very difficult to do. That's the toughest part.
Yeah.
Fair. Okay. Yeah.
And then this is the radar process, which really means reading accounts and deploying appropriate resources. Because at any given point in time, there are more opportunities than the company's resources to drive. So the key thank you. So the key is to actually go ahead and sales management has to figure out who's going to get the resources. Which sales team, which sales not sales team, which opportunity is going to get the thing, right? So concentration of forces is really the first principle of strategy. It means that, basically the account that's really going to get the resources of the company is the one that's going to, have the best opportunity to win. Except that, if it's focused on a company that is not properly set up, you use the resources, but you won't get it feel at the end. So,
yeah, I mean, if you look at cost of goods sold, is sales and marketing costs is the highest in any company. If you don't put those adequately,
so that as you apply the resources, if your POs don't come in and you keep losing. So basically, this is a guy from Hope is Not a Strategy. Right? That's from that book, right? So basically, his approach was, to use this process, 6-step process, in order to essentially decide who's going to, which prospect or which opportunity is going to get the company targeting them. And so for each account, basically the salesperson has to link the solution to pain, which means is there pain in the organization? Assess. It means assessment. He figures out whether there's pain in the organization. I mean, it's got to be able to communicate it inside the company. Okay, this is there is pain in this. He's got to qualify the prospect in terms of where the prospect is in the buying cycle, and then he's got to look at competition-wise what's going on. Are we in good position? Are we in weak position? Is somebody already got inside track with the executive team, all that good stuff.
What about, where, do you think this is a relevant time to talk about, you say there has to be pain. At times, companies know they have this. You have to explain to them, you have to make them understand.
Well, that's in the demand creation.
You understand?
And then selling to power. Who do you sell to? Who's going to make the buying decision? And then communicating the strategic plan to the whole team so that the team can then go ahead and execute it as required. Okay. And it's basically how you and I do it in Philippines. Essentially, we have to do all of these things in order to finally execute the strategy that we're going to do last time. And then the next one is, how you analyze the stakeholders. So each stakeholder has a little bit of power. He's got his preferences, vendor preferences, solution preferences, evolutionary or revolution solution, all that stuff. He's got his pain, and then what is the process that he would like to follow. And but the decision making is, always multiple stakeholders. It's not just one stakeholder trying to make the decision. The financial guys there, the marketing guys there, everybody's there from the different seniorities. And the sales strategy requires you to go ahead and address the issue of every stakeholder's every issue. So you've got to address the preferences of the people who do customer support, preferences of the guy who does the operational efficiency, whatever. And then so you categorize the stakeholders into all of these things, and then you create your overall strategy. Okay. And then RFQ and RFP process. That's before the So if you're invited to RFQ process, you're already fighting an uphill battle. Somebody wrote the RFQ. Your competitor wrote it.
Unless you yeah. You're right.
If you're invited to it, means you're already late. Because either Accenture.
So one thing if you want to say, one thing you did at Bank One, you wrote the RFP. You wrote the RFP.
Exactly. If you write the RFP, when you write the RFP, as a trusted partner, you're primed to win.
Absolutely.
And so you talk about here's the way.
Yeah.
And startups are at disadvantage because they lack the relationship. So typically, when you respond to RFQs, you're losing. Every RFQ, you
win rate on an RFQ is anywhere between 10 to 15%.
Exactly. So the whole goal is to lose but learn, because the RFP essentially tells you what the limitations of the product and what the competitors' features are, because he's obviously going to be priming the RFP for his features. Right? So you keep learning from that, and then finally you start winning. You win because you use surprise, because the competition doesn't know that the feature that they thought gets stuck into the RFP, which is unique to them. You already have solved it. You've done a better job of solving it. So you surprise them to win, and then you out execute and delight at every sales interaction to keep on winning. So the next one is time-based strategy, which is, typically you have a whole range of benefits that you can offer. But if you offer product benefits early in the game, then when they're just trying to figure out whether you should even be invited to participate in the sale, then you're doing the wrong thing, because instead of here they're just trying to figure out whether you should be a player in the thing, and you're trying to only sell a product. So it's too early in the game to start selling a product. So they just want to know whether they
meet the basic
requirements. Okay. So while if you come all the way here and then you're working with the engineering and purchasing, then you start selling about why you're a good strategic partner. You're going to be beyond that, because you're not talking their language. And this is how we ran into trouble in the early stages of trying to win attention. You're trying to sell the configurator when really they were interested in figuring out whether they want to do business with you. Whether you understand the health insurance industry. Yeah. And then assessing competitive advantage. Right? Basically, you build up competitive advantage in depending on depending on all of these things, whether it's a company, whether it's partner, service, product, industry focus. In every area, there are many competitive advantages that you can have. But as a salesperson, you represent the whole thing, and you have to know what issues to bring up at what point in time.
You're the quarterback of the company, in essence, the strategy.
Right. You've got running backs, you've got
You got to know when to use
Huh?
one. You got to know when to use one.
Yeah. And then the next one is kind of effective account management. So any account can be penetrated from any direction. Michael Dell is traveling around, you meet him at a party or something, at the point of view. Or, through a business partner introduces you to it, a buyer's firm introduces you to it. So, but somebody who already owns the account has to now figure out how to stop the competition from getting in on all of these fronts. So basically, it requires an ongoing effort from the person who owns the account to keep, putting up barriers for competitors to get in.
Okay. And you're going to go to each slide one by one.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the slide first, and then maybe I spend
Then
one
you-
anecdote or something.
One anecdote or something. You pick it. And my last one is 10 minutes.
This will take you how long do you think?
I think it depends on how many movie anecdotes. Okay. Slides can go too fast, but 3 anecdotes. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's generally okay. So this is our live stream. Okay. So
You logged in twice, right?
I looked into it.
I see that also. There and there. Are you trying to? That one's you. That's you log in from a second account. Just leave it. Hide it from the broadcast. You know why you're logged in from there. Trimmed it.
Okay, we already have 2 viewers.
Where are you sharing the slides from?
Right here.
No, but don't you have to share them Google?
They already have. Okay, let's complete it. How old are your kids?
Daughter is 6.
6.
There's no. Hello, everybody. We are going to get started because we need Raj to come down here and blow out candles on 2 birthday cakes. Yes, it's having double birthday today.
This was not the reason why I put that.
No.
Oh, God.
So we got this for you, and this one he got us for y'all.
Okay.
One is from Ty, one is from your students. Can everybody come over here? Maybe we can get some singing going. No, that's okay. I don't have a mic.
Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Raj. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. You're the one. Oh, thank you.
There's a party today. Somebody said happy birthday. Let's have only desserts.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
I'm a young 35-year-old man now. 3 more companies to start up. No, you guys are starting all the companies. I'm just godfather now. We'll take a break. We'll break everything.
yeah, now it's time for work. Oh my gosh. She got another cake. Yeah. What's money? Veena Kimani. We'll have one cake for each person. Yeah, everybody's going to carry a cake. Nice. I think I should listen to the what else? What is it? Can we just have a dessert party tonight?
Wow, what do you have to do?
He's wonderful. Birthday.
Thank you, Veena.
Such a big deal.
Now you got 3 of it.
Looks like you're preaching all the time.
But not who came here at time of came back here to 2021. Early 90s.
You already know it.
Okay, here too. Oh my god, where did this cake from? Another one. He's going to gain weight today. Who? He's going to gain weight today.
You got it again. Okay, good evening, everybody. Let's get started. Okay, let's get started. We've got lots of interesting stuff today to discuss. Testing. Perfect. Okay. Okay. So I think in the last okay, so in the last week's session, we covered marketing, PR, branding, etc. But we always knew that the big elephant in the room for an entrepreneur is sales. Sales is what's going to make or break a startup, right? Because sales is the one that will actually end up, getting you your first customer, getting you your stream of revenue going, help you get over your cost, get to cost break even business, and then move on to building a profitable company and so on. So sales is really where, in my books, entrepreneurs are going to make it or break it, and a new company is going to make it or break it. I think that is kind of been my experience over the last 25 years. Companies may have the greatest products, but if you don't get those orders, you're going to have a hard time building that into a significant company, right? You may have to exit very quickly and you won't get the returns that you would like to get from your startup. So sales is where the action is. And so today we're going to do something interesting, which is we're going to go through the slides. I suggested a book called Hope is Not a Strategy, about how to do complex selling, and you'll see that I'm not going to cover all the other kinds of selling, the online selling and so on, because to me, like those are all kind of the subsets of what sales is actually. It's not something that requires the level of sophistication in the transaction that a complex sale is going to get you. So we are going to basically do something interesting, which is I've kind of taken the book and organized it properly so that we can, in hour and a half or 2.5 hours, we can go through the entire process and give you a fairly good understanding of what selling a B2B or B2B2C product is all about, like a complex sale, what's all about. And along with me on the stage, we've got Puneet Arora. Puneet Arora was a person that joined my previous company called Selectica, and I hired him from the competition. And Puneet has built an amazing career in sales over the last 15 years. So let me just have Puneet kind of introduce himself so that you get a feel for the breadth of sales experience that he's going to bring to this particular meeting. And then as we go through the slides, I'll give you some case studies that kind of illustrate the sales situations that I've talked about in this slide. But Puneet, who's got hands-on 15 years of experience, he's right now the VP of sales for a $200 million company. He can supplement it with his own examples. And I know you guys are not shy about asking questions, so please keep that going. And because that's really how we are going to extract the most out of everything that Puneet knows and my experience with sales, etc. So Puneet, why don't you kind of tell us about your background?
Sure. Everybody hear me okay? Good. Raj is right. Raj recruited me from the competition and introduced me into corporate B2B selling. But my sales journey started a little bit before that. I came to the US. I was born in Southern Africa, a country called Zambia. I came to the US for undergrad. And that basically gave me enough money to pay for my room and board, and that was it. Everything else was up to me. I had to figure out how to get here. So what I ended up doing was, this is how I got into sales. I was in India once, and I saw BDs, and ended up buying 800 of those, actually 1,600 of those. So 2 packs of 40 BDs each, and 20 bundles each. It cost me about 90 or so rupees, roughly $2, and I sold each one for $1. So I made $1,600 in a $2 investment, and that's when I realized that sales was definitely for me. So after college, I joined a company called Trilogy, based out of Austin, Texas.
Yeah. How did you identify the customers so fast?
college students wanted something different, and it was a unique product, and not too expensive for a college student. So it was a very easy sell, frankly speaking. So I moved to that after college. I moved to a company called Trilogy, and started off with one of their sister companies, a company called PCOrder.com. I was sales guy number one, first salesperson for the company, and saw them through an IPO. And then from there, that's when I met Raj at Comdex, actually. Raj was with Selectica. We were at the booth next door. And after the show, Raj said, "Why don't you come move to the Bay Area and come, let's sell Selectica." So I took him on his offer. I moved to the Bay Area from Austin. I was employee number 22 at Selectica, and saw Selectica through a phenomenal IPO. I left Selectica after 5 years there, and went to a company called Blue Rose, small company, the startup, and brought in the first customer all the way until we sold the company off. And then from there, I decided I want to go try something a little bigger. I moved to Salesforce.com. I was VP of sales for their corporate sales division, which was their small medium business, which is what basically built the Salesforce business up. From there, I was with them for about 3.5 years, and then moved to Oracle, where it's another small startup here in the Bay Area, where I ran the western third of Americas for the cloud computing business. I was there for a few years as well, and then moved to now in the company called LivePerson, which, if you don't know about us, we do online chat. So if you go and you're chatting with any company, with any brand, with about 10,000 customers, you're likely to use our technology. And we provide not only the chat technology, but also in some cases the agents behind that. So the full pay for performance and or technology sell. So it's about a $200 million.
Great. Okay. So
On a lighter note, when you say we came from competition, that reminds me of like why somebody got fired in Dubai. Sexual harassment lawsuit.
oh, you remember Greg Cabral?
Oh, sure. Excalibur.
Excalibur guy, right? So, but he was a little bit before. Yeah, I think he was employee number 6 or 7. And I think by the time he came in,
I was, by the time I came,
he was already. Move on.
You said yes, you.
Yes. No, but I think there's an important message here, which is, as a startup company, where do you get your information about customers, prices, strategy, product, features, presentation, what's a good presentation to make, how do you sell into a complex organization, it's really easy if you can hire a competitor salesman. Because the salesman really represents the whole company. Think about it. When a salesman goes out and, talks to a customer, he needs to know the whole company. He needs to know how it ticks, how it works, So, and what I found in general was that, normally I don't hire the VP of sales when I go looking because, that's not an easy acquisition by an entrepreneur. But on the other hand, what I've found is that behind every great VP of sales or a company that's flying high, there are regional directors who are firing on all cylinders, who know the stuff even better than the VP of sales, who's executing better than the VP of sales, and he's the one actually doing the stuff. He's the guy who's executing all the sales strategies and so on. So, and he can't rise up because there's a VP of sales on top of him. So I know that, if I offer a person who's one level below the VP of sales, if I find the right person who's capable, who's executing, and who's very competent, but has basically not been able to move up to the VP of sales position, and I give him the opportunity to be VP of sales, I've got something to offer, right? And I can bring him into the fold, and then I can have him do for my company what he would have liked to do for place that he was working in, right? So that's typically my strategy. Uh, for example, in my first company, Opti, that I talked about, what happened was that there was a guy called Matt Reddy, and he was a sales guy for my competitor, and he was selling to in Southern California. He was a sales guy there, or regional sales guy, and Opti had a very good product, but this guy had all the relationships with the customer. So even with a weaker product, he ended up beating Opti in that particular transaction. And when I see some sales guy who can beat me with a weaker product, I know he's a good sales guy, right? Because his relationships are really good. So on the other hand, that sales guy who beat me knows that he is riding the wrong horse, because even though he got the sale, he knows that he will do much better if he also has a good product to sell. So as soon as, even though we lost the sale at this account to Matt Reddy, I called up Matt. I said, Matt, I know you're beating us, so congratulations for, beating us at this particular account. But let me tell you that, uh, if you had the right product to sell, you'd be 10 times more successful. You are using all your skills at selling, trying to push a dog. So why don't you come and start selling something that is a great product, but we don't have salespeople as good as you. And so he came in, and then he took over that whole region, and then he took over half of US, then he took over all of US, and then he became my worldwide VP of sales. So basically, what happened was I that's how I found my sales guy, and then because it kept on growing uh, over the years, I kept on promoting it. And these are the best kinds of VPs of sales that you can get, because they know your business inside out. They know how to sell. They have a lot of credibility with the field. They know what it takes to hire the right person. So these people become the greatest VPs of sales. So two lessons. One is, hire somebody who's one or two levels below the VP of sales and make him your VP of sales, because and the second one is, look at your competition in order to, because uh, there are lots of salespeople. Every organization needs to have salespeople, and they are easy to find. What's not easy to find is a salesperson who knows how to sell. Go ahead.
Just to add to that, when I met Raj at Comdex, they had just wanted to deal with BMW Germany, and we were selling at Comdex, which is a technology show. So we had a configurator which was in German to an American audience, and they were, it was a big win, but it was very difficult for them to understand and how to portray that message to an American audience and to a technology-focused audience. So by bringing me on board, what they were able to do was define the go-to-market strategy for the healthcare technology market very, very quickly. I was able to say, hey, Raj, why are we focusing here? Let's go focus here. Let's not go focus on these kind of customers. Let's try and focus on these kind of prospects. And the message was already kind of intrinsic to me. It was taking a superior product, frankly speaking, applying that to a market that I already knew, and allowed us to go win. I mean, over $150 million worth of business that we ended up in the high-tech market space.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it was approaching the market quicker, and some mistakes that they would have made by not knowing the market, hopefully I was able to minimize those because of that experience.
Go ahead. Louder.
In terms of recruiting and sales folks from competitors, I know you had one case where you had to go to solve the first.
Yes.
Do you have any rules on the advice that you are competitors? How do you
Yeah, so in general, salespeople, no problem hiring competitive salesperson because companies think that they have no IP, that they don't get it, they don't have any proprietary information. So in general, hiring a salesperson is totally kosher. Don't worry about hiring salespeople. Uh, if you hire a VP of sales, you can get the management riled up because the VP of sales is typically involved in lots of executive level discussions and so on. But in general, like, the apps engineer might know some proprietary stuff, but even he is regarded as it's okay to hire. And these people, if you look at a lot of salespeople's resumes, they're typically at a company only 3 to 4 years. And because they're always kind of hopping up, moving up, stepping up to better and better opportunities. So hiring salespeople, don't worry about it. Hiring engineers, you've got to worry a little bit, and so on. Management, you've got to worry a little bit. But salespeople, no problem. Okay, so I just put up this slide, and essentially it's a good slide to kind of position, how your startup is going to sell. I mean, if you're a small company and you want to have no cost of selling, then try to build in virality. And we talked about virality last week, right? And you guys should have done your homework and read those slides. But virality costs nothing to sell. So the product sells for itself. And your friend and people, users are actually promoting it for you. But on the other hand, you're not really engaging in the sophistication of selling and what it means to sell and extracting maximum value. Typically, it's used for freemium kind of companies and so on. On the other hand, and then there's a whole kind of range of companies or selling techniques where you bundle it with somebody who's got complementary products in order to, so that you don't have to worry about sales. It goes along with the other product. Or you go ahead and just put it up in the app marketplace. People will find it in that particular category that you are in, productivity category or whatever it is. Or you team up with web design firms or service companies. That's what those two bubbles represent. Or you try online advertising. And then finally, for most people, for most startups who are building some technical product or something which has some complexity, and your customers are going to be the mid-size or larger companies, you're going to be doing something called complex sales. And when you come to complex sales, now you need, a selling approach, a selling strategy, and so you're going to have to put it all together from the sales side, right? And that's what we are going to focus in this class, because once you understand how to sell complex products with a complex sales situation, you should be able to backtrack into other kinds of selling. Okay. Any comments on that?
The only comment I'll make is, if you look at all others except enterprise sales, they all are mostly product-led. Because the product is important no matter what you sell, whatever the product does is important. But everything else there is more product-led. Enterprise sales, I do believe, is salesperson-led. If you represent the company, you represent the product, you can go and frankly change the perspective of the product to the client. Everywhere else, it's usually not that case.
Right.
And also talk to them with the new product. That's more important. Whereas B2B sales, you have to talk them from the existing product and this new product.
Exactly.
Why this is better? Otherwise, even though it is expensive, you still open your pockets to that.
That requires selling. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah, excellent. So basically, when you do complex sales, essentially there are 3 different ways of doing complex sales. Okay. So one is direct sales with your own salespeople. The second one is something called sales rep. Okay, so these are salespeople who are professional salespeople that have decided to start their own sales company. and they basically sign up a set of complementary products to service the customers in their region. Okay, so they have the relationships, but they want to be an independent company from being tied up and working for some company or the other. So they are sales rep. So there are sales rep organizations with 5, 10 salespeople who are all top-notch salespeople who got relationship with the top 15, 20 companies in the region. So, these are the sales rep companies. This is true not only in the US, but actually is very true in a lot of foreign countries. So when you go to Korea, I always use a sales rep. When I go to France, Germany, I use sales reps, right? Because I don't know the language, I don't know the culture, I don't know the systems, I can't set up the meetings. For me to hire a German person, I wouldn't know how to even choose one, right? So the sales rep, automatically gives me that option. And the third variety is a distributor, where essentially, and typically it's a stocking distributor, but you can have distributors even for software products these days. So they basically, are more like demand fulfillment. They don't actually sell a product. So, they will basically set up a show day or have a big booth in a conference, and you get a small place to go and do personal selling and so on. So three categories of ways to do direct sales. Your own people do sales, your own people, direct sales, reps, and distributors. And then obviously the kind of service you get will be proportional to, it's cheapest to do distributor, you get the least amount of service. Sales rep, you'll get a little bit more mind share. And obviously direct sales, you get 100% mind share. But the cost is the highest, right? Good question. So the question was, I'm going to repeat the question for the people in the audience. So the question was, are sales reps specialized for different verticals? And the answer is absolutely yes. So there are sales reps who are good in medical equipment. There are sales reps who are good in semiconductor components. There are sales reps who are even more specialized with microprocessors or memory chips or whatever, or DSPs or whatever. So basically, the sales rep, essentially tries to create a brand for himself in this, from a sales standpoint, for representing the best of breed that allow him to provide a total solution for a particular set of problems. Okay, so for example, we used to have a sales rep, even though Chips and Technologies was here in the Bay Area. They decided that they did not have relationships with all the PC manufacturers in the Bay Area. So they hired a company called Brooks Technical Group, BTG. I don't know if they're still around or not. I think they may still be around. Yeah. But they hired BTG because BTG had about 5 or 6 people who had 20 years of experience connecting and selling products to all the PC manufacturers like Hewlett Packard and so on, in the Hewlett Packard, Tandem, all of these companies in the Bay Area. And Chips felt that, even to hire a direct salesperson who has got the relationships that the sales reps that BTG had was going to be hard. So they basically hired BTG, and you have to pay quite a bit in terms of sales commission to these sales reps. And plus they have the ability to kick you out if your product does not keep up with the competition. They'll switch you out in 6 months or a year and take a competitor's product if the competitor starts out executing you on the product side, right? So, but they decided to go with BTG because it provided entry into the marketplace faster, right? Yeah.
Right, selling from product or selling from sales. Where are the differentiations for
So the question was?
selling products versus selling services.
You want to talk about that? Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're selling. So you have to have the basic fundamentals regarding it, regardless if it's a product or a service. Right? It's all about relationship, it's about value creation. The approach is what's different. Let's look at software as a service. Technically, you're selling a software, but you're actually selling a service. So, give you an example there. It's really comes down to how do you explain that value? How do you provide? How do you take and demonstrate the ROI, for example? Those are just certain nuances that are different, but at the end of the day, the true sales approach is almost identical. There might be little different steps. For example, in selling a service, you might have to talk more about the consulting hours or look at the statement of work versus nowadays when you're talking about selling a product or selling a software as a service, the consulting aspect is very, very minimal, if anything at times. So there might be some nuances that are different there, but fundamentally the approach is exactly the same. It's all about value, relationships, and ROI.
So this slide is one more question. Yeah.
You talk a lot about relationships that salespeople build, right? So once you hire somebody who's in sales and you bring in a lot of customer relationships with your company,
Yes.
how do you work into developing, into professionalizing those relationships within your company so that when that person leaves, he's not able to take those relationships to your company? So how do you?
I think you asked an excellent question because the biggest worry that that a company has is that if the salesman quits and joins a competitor, the next order is going to go to with that salesman, and that's something that you worry about all the time when you're on the management side, right? You're always worried that this, because you know how relationship driven all these complex sales are. So essentially, you'll see one of the slides that we'll put up at the end is called account management. So as soon as you get the sale, the complex sale, essentially what has happened is that you have successfully executed a sales strategy that has enabled many layers in the client organization to decide that you're the best product and that you're the best company to do the deal, right? So typically the CIO or the VP of marketing or the VP of engineering at the C level. Then there'll be a bunch of directors, there'll be a bunch of people in the purchasing department, there'll be a bunch of people in the engineering department, in the product service, customer service. Typically it's a committee-based buying. So all of these people got exposed to your company, exposed to your product, exposed to the reason why you got bought, right? So as soon as you win, essentially what you have to do as a company is to create a shadow organization or a complementary organization in your own company. So for customer service, I'm going to have these people who are going to start connecting with the customer service person. For engineering, I'm going to connect them up with my apps engineer, but there's also going to be somebody in design who's going to be the god or who's going to be the support person if there's any technical issue. For the marketing side, obviously, I connect my marketing people. For sales, so basic and finance, I'll connect. So basically, I connect up the customers, organization, and stakeholders with the complementary people in mind. So guess what? Now I'm multiplying the relationships between my company and the other company. And you'll see when we come to the account management slide that there is a whole process that you have to execute. And the key process you have to execute once you win a deal is to continuously document why you are providing great value to the customer at customer service, at engineering level, at the finance level. So you're going to create and document, hey, these are the benefits that our product gave you, that it brought your cost down, or it brought your efficiency up, or it brought your, and you're continuously documenting the benefits so that essentially you're trying to move the sale away or the relationship away from the sales guy who had the personal relationships and moving it to where it becomes a company-to-company relationship, right? So that,
yeah, I mean, you're right there. Something I'll tell you, I'll give you a practical example of things we do. We block off maybe head of sales and my head of marketing, head of customer service. So I've seen two trends. The first one is you will actually block off 30 minutes a day. You'll pick 5, 6 customers and call them. Just most customers hear when there's something good or when there's something bad. Either when you want another order or something has gone wrong. So what we try and make a point of is every day just calling 2 or 3 customers. I'll call somebody on the sales side, the head of marketing might call the CMO of the organization. Just continue to build that relationship. So if somebody leaves, you're multi-threaded in an organization. Second thing I'm also seeing today is that the customer support or the customer success, which is called now, is actually moved away from sales. So once a sale is done, the customer success org usually sits outside of sales in many organizations, so that you have 2 different touch points to do the organization.
Go ahead.
So I have a question. If you have an average product and an excellent sales one, what if you have a great product and an average sales one? How does that combination work, and what is the optimized level management?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, which is you don't want to be always selling an average product, because ultimately, you're going to wear out your top sales guys' relationships. So essentially you might get the entry with an average product, but you have to start working very diligently as a company. I'm assuming that you want to be a big successful company, right? So you have to diligently work at trying to figure out how to make your product great. And making your product great very often is as simple as knowing what to do. If somebody just told you that, your product needs to have spec A, B, C. Today you only have these 3 specs, D, E, F, but you've got to get to spec number C, B, and so it's like, like Intel, right? We know that they're weak and low power. And that's why they're not made in tablets and smartphones and all that. So as soon as they break into Apple with their desktop microprocessors, which they took, right? They took that all the Macs are built on Intel's CPUs now. Previously it was all, ARM and so on, right? But then they broke in and got it. As soon as you break in, essentially you now have access, and your access and ability to extract the customer requirements. And it's easier to hire engineers than to find customers will give you the right answers as to what needs to be done. Because you cannot hit for a low power target based on what the competition is doing right now. You've got to know what Apple wants 2 years from now in order to hit their target, right? It's got to intersect it. So basically, you have to take your average product and make it better by extracting customer requirements and then executing an engineering strategy or manufacturing strategy or whatever it is to keep improving the product till it becomes the best. Okay.
So I'm talking about the different side of the
Repeat the
situation.
question, please.
So if a manager and a technical person starts a company on their own, they build the product, they don't have yet VC funding, so they don't have luxury to hire a salesperson. Nor they have a top-notch product because they just built it and they are still coming up and down. So they got every product yet in the market and they are not salespeople, they don't have existing relationships. How do they build that?
The question is, if you have a uniform company where the product is new because it's a uniform organization and you don't have the capital to invest in high-priced salespeople, good ones are not cheap, that's for sure. So how do you break into an organization? How do you leverage that kind of situation? So the reality is, you've got to have something special first of all. It might not be perfect, but it's got to be something special, something different. You've got to find the right type of customer or prospect to go after. You can't just go after everybody. Then you have to be really focused. Go find 1, 2, 3 people that you want to go after. And there the passion should show, the product will lead by itself a little bit. You have to form personal relationships. You will most probably learn a lot. Some of them won't be successful. You go to the next one. I mean, it's tough. But I think that's where the product needs to shine. and come out. Passion will need to come, and it's an ongoing battle. There will be some wins, there will be some losses. You will fall down, you stand back up, go at it again. There is no secret sauce or no secret formula for frankly any of those kind of situations.
So that's driven by CEO. You have to establish the vision, nurture this passion, product implementation, cutting measures. Give us a chance, okay, the place to know not to
Yeah, and you know, I think we talked a little bit in a previous class about the need to find somebody called an early evangelist, right? You've got to find those people who are willing to take a chance on some cutting edge breakthrough technology or feature or whatever. So they're not everywhere. Most companies, 95% of the 98% of the companies or CIOs will meet will be very conservative. But there will be that 2%, 3% who are more, you know, who want that cutting edge stuff, who want something new and great. And they love it. They love new technology. And so you find them, and typically, where do you think you find them? Conferences, exactly. That's the right answer. So conferences is where you find them. So typically, the people who come to these conferences are looking for something new. So you already have, you know, a set of people that they go to these conferences at the early stage, build up personal relationships with as many people as you can in those conferences, and you know you'll find, you know, a few early evangelists. Yes.
From a personality perspective, what's the difference between a great salesperson versus an average salesperson? What are those critical things that a person should have against a great salesperson?
Question is, what's the difference between a great salesperson and an average salesperson? You know, an average salesperson, like a good salesperson, can break into an account. It's not easy, but they can break in. Being able to go in, what I think the differentiation comes is a great sales guy can explain the vision of what the product can do better than an average sales guy. When you're going into an account, sometimes most of the time you don't even know they need your solution. You have to go and explain to them why why they need your solution. 95% of the time there is no budget. You've got to go create that budget. An average sales guy can't do that. They might be able to knock on the door, get a meeting, but a good sales guy can go and say, this is your business, this is where you're going, this is a problem that you do not know you have. And now let me show you how you're going to go get the money to pay for this problem. That's the difference.
So we'll come to that in the very next slide. Go ahead.
How do you know that you hire a bad salesman? I know it's based on a long time. But is there anything else you could do?
So the question was, you know, how do you know you're not hired a bad salesperson, right? So basically, the hardest thing to hire is a salesperson in my book, because you know, every salesperson should be able to sell most of us, because they are salespeople. They know how to do interpersonal selling. They know how to connect with you emotionally. So you forget that, you know, as to why you're even hiring them, but they suddenly become your employee because they're that good, right? So every salesperson, if he's any good, should be able to sell himself to you. In fact, like every time I would interview, you know, regional directors or VPs of sales or even sales guys, I wanted to hire every one of them because everyone was so good, right? Because of the way they present themselves, the way they tell their success stories, the way they, you know. So a couple of things that I started doing, which on the face of it seems very brutal. Which is, I would say, I want to see your W-4. I want to see their income tax returns. The sales tax. So I want to see that, you know, he actually hit the numbers that he's talking about, because the number is how you measure a sales tax. So I would actually ask them to fax me a copy of the last 3-4 years W4, so I can see if there is a trend of him making more and more and more money, or whether it went up, came down, whether it was random, it was chance, or whether he had a consistent way of doing sales, right, and building up his own personal. Because typically they get a fraction, 5, 10%, whatever it is, of the revenue that they bring in. Right? They are not typically commission based on the profit they bring in. Most of them are commission based on the total amount of revenue they bring in. So basically, if somebody brings in $100,000, you know that he brought in $1 million worth of sales, assuming 10%, because it's between 6 to 15% is typically the range what the direct salesperson will get. So I would ask for that. Next thing I would ask for is references at the accounts that he claims he's got a relationship with. And if his references go only up to the departmental head, he falls in my metric. If it goes all the way to the VP of marketing or VP of engineering or even the CEO, now obviously my confidence goes up in him. And so that's the second metric. So check his references and see what kind of references he gives you, right? Yeah.
You are a big guy. By the time you're asking sales guy for a W4 form and opens it, but for a startup, every sales guy is hyper. I mean, I know this now personally. So, a scientist or entrepreneur is not that great, but a sales guy is good. So,
Yeah, so the point is, the question she asked was, if you're just a first-time entrepreneur, right? Or a very young entrepreneur, not too much experience, and you're dealing with a sales guy who's got 15 years of experience, right? And who probably made, $250,000 in commission the year before. And, can you really ask him about his W4? And I would say, yes, you can ask him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got to make sure you're making that hire, and that hire is the right hire. So feel free to ask for that proof. I'll tell you, many people feel shy in asking for it. You shouldn't. It's your company. You need to make sure you're hiring the right person. It's absolutely a valid question to ask. In fact, a lot of people nowadays will send copies out. When I receive resumes, people will send me references already. They'll send me copies of their W2s. Yeah. Already, they're part of the resume that comes in. Yeah, so absolutely, don't feel shy asking.
Yeah, I kind of forget, but
W are really good points. W2 and references.
W2 and reference level, and obviously, okay. Actually, the other thing that I look for is how effective is he at the communication, right? Because really, the salesperson has to build emotional relationship with his clients, and to build that, he needs to be a great communicator. And there are salespeople that they walk into your office and feels energized, and so I look for things like optimism. For example, one of my best VPs of sales, if you remember, Chuck Pendle. So Chuck Pendle was his VP of sales at Selectica, and Chuck Pendle joined Selectica when it was very, very small. And what was interesting about him was that this guy was a very optimistic guy, and every day he would spread optimism in the company. And the way he would spread optimism in the company is by saying, these are the two good things that happened today. So he looks for the two good things that happened that day. Either a customer called back, or he got a PO, or he hired somebody, or our engineering people solved the problem, or whatever. But he becomes kind of the messenger in the whole company. Hey, these are the two good things that happened today. So it's great,
Absolutely.
So he basically brought optimism. See, in a startup, it's easy to get depressed and feel down because, the competition suddenly launched a product, they're in the news everywhere, they suddenly bagged a big deal, or they went public, or they did this, and it's easy for your team to get depressed. And if they get depressed, they're not going to be very productive. So, you know, the VP of sales, when he goes ahead and becomes kind of a messenger of, optimism, it really transformed our company.
Absolutely. I mean, it was infectious.
It was infectious,
You
exactly.
were walking into the office and you started to be walking around saying, oh, guess who called? Look what happened here. And what I've noticed is you have your people look at a glass half full and a glass half empty. What I've noticed is the great sales guys, always the glass is always half full, no matter what. We go into a client and we say, thank you very much. We don't want to, we don't want to use you yet. They come back and say, he said yet. Means there's a chance there. And go back. Versus the non-optimist would say, okay, I'm done here, let me go somewhere else. So people who look at everything in an optimistic manner, I've seen always have that spirit and that ability to succeed.
Yeah. So, okay.
If you're thinking about sales and channels and projects,
Yes.
have you seen cases where results or frequency of that?
So the question was like, typically there are three or four outward facing jobs in a company, right? You got your marketing, then you got your business development, you got your sales, and then you got your customer support and things like that, right? So these are all outward facing jobs. All the others are inward facing, ensuring others are inward facing. So the question was, can one person be all these things, marketing, business development, sales? And I would say that in a startup, it's good to have one person who can do all three or all four initially be the one person, because otherwise you've got to get these four people communicating with each other, right? So, and every time there's communication, there's friction, there's misunderstanding, there is incomplete information. So I think if you can find somebody to complement the founding team with one person who can do marketing, business development, sales, and customer support uh, all in one, which is what I did at Opti, which is what I initially did at Selectica, then I think you're already ahead of the curve. No, it's VP of marketing and sales. Yeah, it's easy. And yeah, go ahead.
Given the limited resources that startup will have,
Yeah.
how would you allocate the sales budget into
The question was like, how do you allocate the budget? Yeah.
It really depends on what stage you are in. But usually, if you're earlier on, obviously those kind of dollars are not there. But in a later stage startup, usually about 35-40% of your revenues go back into sales. That might be high for an early stage company, but that's usually the case in later stage organizations.
Yeah, later stage companies, it comes down in the 10-15% range. But for companies that are powering through to get to a certain size, typically, at Selectica, we're investing 60% uh, of our revenues into sales. 60%. So, because we wanted to grow faster than 5, 10, 20% year over year. We wanted to grow at 100%, 200% year over year. So when you want to grow at that rate, you have to invest. And if you don't get the orders in, how are you going to grow?
So, out of the 60%, what was the allocation, say, for social media? Direct sales?
It again depends on the product, right? It depends on the product as to what you need to do. So if you have something that's going to require a big funnel versus rifle shooting, if it's a rifle shooting business, big game hunting business, we were doing at Selectica, we were doing configurators, which was big game hunting, where there's only like 20, 30 opportunities per quarter available for the whole industry. That were in $1 million plus range, which is where we were focused. Obviously we put all our money into sales guys and the app team supporting them and the telesales group supporting them and so on. But at Opti, where we had 100 motherboard manufacturers and so on to go after, we would go ahead and put more on marketing and creating a reputation in the industry, a brand in the industry, and have fewer sales guys because, typically, once you got the order, it was just a question of order fulfillment that had to be taken care of, picking up the POs and servicing them. So it depends on a little bit on the product also and the market that you are in.
In the initial stage, is it possible to hire a really good sales guy with just equity and commission only?
Absolutely. I've done that in the past before. You have to find the right person. That person has most only had some success because of that, maybe a base salary is not as important to them, or they are very young and very hungry, and they live off the effort, the commission, the very little. But absolutely, you have to find the right person. I've actually, one of my startups, there was a team of about 6 guys that was purely commission based. Because we did not, this is a startup, we didn't have the dollars up front to pay a base. So we paid it purely based on commission, the higher commission tier, and there was very strong equity. But absolutely.
I just have a comment to make on that. I'm not being in sales. I've sold hundreds of millions of dollars, but never carried a badge. Getting the PO is magical. That's up to you. We did all the rest, but never get the PO. Now, what I want to say is, talk to salespeople because they are one of the most no BS like people. If you're not helping, they'll drop you to the top of the stack, right? Second, if they're interviewing in your company, that means they see money a part of work. So that is in some sense a validation that there's somebody saying that I can make money out of it. It's actually a good thing to do, to talk to salespeople. Because I've never seen any salesperson join any company or work on any product line where they cannot make a living. Sure. And the third comment I want to make is the sales for enterprise, right? It depends on the product line to some extent. The mindset with cloud is very different than infrastructure, very different than other types of products. So depending on your startup, you may have to choose the right type of salespeople with a Rolodex in your first beachhead. And that is where right now I'm having challenges because it's not easy for salespeople to leave. If they're really good, they're making a lot of money. Why would they join a startup where their promise is not there?
Okay, let's roll on a little bit, and then I'm sure we can continue with the questions. Okay, so I think we've covered most of this. Okay, so coming to selling styles. So, this is interesting because, there are 7 types of salespeople that you're going to see out there. And it all depends on the maturity of the sales guy. So if you look at it, the one at the bottom left corner is somebody called a teller, because they can basically only talk about their product. They cannot understand, they don't know what the customer needs are, they don't know what benefits your product has to the customer, but they can keep on talking about the features of your product. Oh, I've got 8-bit microprocessor, I've got something that is CMOS, I've got something that's low power, I've got, all they can talk about is their product. They cannot talk about, in what situations you need it, what would be the benefits, short-term, long-term, ROI benefits, etc. So they are tellers, right? And typically, you need tellers, you need all these kinds of salespeople in an organization. So it's not that you just need the best guy, which is at the top right-hand corner, and don't need people at the other end. So you need all the way from tellers all the way to, industry network consultants. We'll come to that. So basically, these guys are the ones who are happy to day in, day out talk about your product. So when you go to a trade show, you need several tellers to stand right next to the booth, next to the equipment that you're selling. So they are tellers. They keep on talking about the same product over again without getting tired, with enthusiasm, etc. But that's all they do, right? Then we move on to the next one, which is sellers. So sellers are people who know how to sell benefits, which means they can understand a customer's problems and can figure out on what parameters the customer is going to make a buying decision, so that you talk about benefits in that area. For some people, profitability is important. For some people, efficiency is important. Some people, ergonomics is important. For some people, safety is important. So, some people, security is important. So, depending on what the requirements are or expectations are of the customer or the prospect, the salesman spins the product and focuses on that area. No point talking about efficiency to somebody who's most worried about security. You say that, oh, we can have only 2 cameras and we'll provide you, full coverage. But this guy says that, they'll provide you 90% coverage. But the guy who's concerned about security will say, I want 100% coverage of the area. I don't want 90%. So a seller is somebody who can do needs assessment and then figure out how to promote the benefits. On the right-hand side, you'll see that there are something called hunters. So a hunter is somebody who actually can sell benefits, but he does one more thing, which is what Puneet talked about. He can create the demand, and he can wage a competitive fight. Because competition in selling is actually very sophisticated way that you compete in order to win, right? And we'll cover some of that stuff. So hunters do that. Then moving up to the left is somebody called farmers. So farmer is somebody that he's in your current account, but he's keeping the eyes open to see what other opportunities are there inside the company. So he is picking up deals all the time, which have not even been released to the marketplace, for which there's no competition. But you can say that, oh, this is where in a service organization, you absolutely need farmers, right? Your project manager better be a good farmer, because if he's not a good farmer, as soon as the project is done, you're out of the door, which means that you are not in the inside meetings, you're not hanging around the coffee machine, listening to what else, what other projects are coming up, what other requirements are coming up, things like that. So, or what the new budget is going to include money for this particular project that we're going to be starting, or we're going to be starting to write a spec on something like that, or on something or the other. So the farmer is the guy who's inside the company and is continuously got his radar, finding out all the different opportunities all the time, right? So, and these are all extremely efficient ways of selling, because you basically don't have competition. When you sell without competition, it's going to be nice, profitable business typically, and it's going to be comfortable business. When you sell with competition, typically your price comes down, time to delivery comes down, feature set requirements go up, support requirements go up, maintenance cost payments come down. So all bad things happen, and before you know it, it becomes like break even or even losing kind of business, right? But you just do it to win the order, right? So the farmer is the guy who's going to take that first order, which may not be profitable, and convert it into a gold mine or a gusher, because you're picking up orders right, left, and center from everywhere. And then partners is the other one, which is folks where 2 plus 2 equals 5. So it's their product, plus your product provides such a complete solution that the customer gets lots of benefits. So if he can sell his product, then automatically the customer would buy your product, because he's going to get 2.5 times the benefit. Right? So that's partners. So, and right in the middle are what we call business developers. So the business developer is somebody who can create demand and is like a rainmaker. So he has basically got the ability to talk to executive level people and say, look, you know, if you guys had this capability, you would have a strategic advantage in the marketplace. Your client's company will have a strategic advantage in the marketplace by using some new capability that could magically show up, and then turns out that your company provides a solution that can magically provide a competitive advantage. So business developers do that, and finally at the top is something called the industry network consultant, because this guy is setting the direction of how the industry is going to evolve. So if you remember, a lot of people become industry gurus, and we read about them on VentureBeat, we read about them on all these things. So these guys have the ability to tell everybody that the world is going to move to the cloud, or the next thing is going to be, different kind of computing solution for how servers are going to be designed. We're going to have blade servers. Blade servers were not there till some industry network consultant or somebody, some guru said that, we need to have blade servers so that there should be one rack in which you can just keep sticking servers one by one, and the benefit of having swappable servers is worth investing in $1 million rack even before you put in one server inside. So somebody created the vision for blade servers, and that's typically the job of the INC, because once this guy creates that vision and the industry like the Titanic starts rolling down that direction, you can own the whole market. And you can see that, Intel tries that all the time, Google tries that all the time, Microsoft tries it all the time. They're all trying to get their INC to communicate the vision at a conference or in blogs so that the world starts moving according to their vision. If the world starts moving according to their vision, all CIOs start saying, we've got to have cloud in the house. We've got to have private cloud. Having AWS is not good enough. We've got to have a private cloud for security and all that. And that is the only way we are going to have a secure solution. Whether it's true or not, then basically, whoever provides private cloud solutions is going to take over the market and become a very successful company. Want to add to that? Yeah, let him add a little bit.
So just to add to that, the key thing to note is everybody is different. You need all of those people. All of those are valuable. In a fast-paced, say, cloud company today, those sellers are very, very valuable because they can get you those smaller, to you quickly, which is very, very, needed in smaller size organizations. So all of those people are needed. The key is to understand that everybody is different. Me personally, I started off as a teller. I would go in and start giving away all these feature functions, and somebody said, hey, enough, listen to me, listen to what I have to say. And that's how you grow and became a hunter and kind of moved on to the top right-hand corner. I, for example, can never be a hunter. I don't have that perspective. I don't have that ability to go in and just kind of work them over time. It's not me. I'm on this side. So everybody is different. Every salesperson is different. You have to see what it is you want and then find the person who fits that role. So that was just an observation I had.
No, and so actually somebody, remember we answered the question as to how you hire salespeople. You got to know at the stage of company you are in, and the kind of spot you're trying to fill. You want a hunter, you need a teller, you need a farmer. You put a hunter in the job of a farmer, it's going to be a disaster. You put a farmer in the job of a hunter, again a disaster. I think he's going to be eaten alive. So the thing is that, when you choose your salesperson, so for example, when at Selectica, for the Eastern region, there were only about 3 or 4 companies that could support a $5-10 million license fee for selected in the configuration area. One of them was IBM. So if I want to get IBM, where the sale is probably going to take a year or 2 years, and the deal when it comes in is going to be worth tens of millions of dollars. You think I can put in a teller? No. Can I put in a farmer? No. Can I put in a seller just selling benefits? No. I had to put in a big game hunter. So, we had to search till we found uh, Rob Mills, right. Found this last week. Okay. So we found this guy called Rob Mills, and he's got a southern drawl, slow talking guy, but you know, like a like a hunter. He can basically go ahead and track how things are moving in the organization at IBM, and how to go in and slowly build relationship with this, and in 2 years our competitor Trilogy, which was his previous company, they had 100. IBM had invested $172 million in Trilogy's core technology and building a team and using the product over about 8 years by then. By 7 or 8 years, they'd spent $172 million they'd spent on Trilogy, and our goal was to kick out Trilogy from that account and make it into a Selectica customer for configuring the mainframes and everything else. And 2.5 years later, we basically kicked out Trilogy from their account and closed, I think, a 13 or 14 million dollar license services deal, another 15-20 million dollars, which kept on going. So the point is that we acquired a big game hunter, where we were willing to have him develop this account over 2-3 years in order to you know achieve what we felt was a very strategic goal. Big difference between a BD person, a business developer, and so on.
Often not less than a commitment.
Yeah,
Usually that's when you
yeah.
count and you have a slightly longer.
No, what the BD person does is two things. One is he does partnership, which is not what we want here. Here, I want account to be brought into the selected couple. I wanted business, actual direct business from that customer. So I do not want a partnership. If I want partnerships, I will get a business developer. Uh, so since I wanted that, I needed somebody who can convert the demand that he's created, the vision that he sold, the ROI that he's communicated, the product evaluations that he supported. All of that has to be brought together into something that results in a PO at the end. PO requires typically a 10, $14 million PO will require about 3 or 4 levels of signature, which means that the engineering manager will have to approve it. Then from there it will go into the purchasing department. Purchasing department will go to the VP of finance and go to maybe even the CEO, because it's a $15 million order that's going straight to another vendor. So typically any of them can say, oh, we don't have the budget, why can't we push it out? Because typically, there's a lot of demand for, money that has to be spent, right? So uh, essentially, you need a big game hunter who can address and communicate the value to all the different stakeholders in getting this massive deal through the company. Yes.
So in this kind of situation, where it took 2 years to close the deal, knowing IBM, you expected 1+ year. How do you keep sales guy motivated and in the deal? Because for the first year, he doesn't even get any commission.
Right. That's a very good point.
There is a huge chance of not making.
Yeah, so big game hunters are not motivated by short-term small commissions. So typically he would also have some small accounts, because you don't have meetings with IBM every day. So he also had like another 3 or 4 small accounts that'll see that he makes pretty good money. But the day he brought in the IBM deal, that year he took in $1.5 million commission check. One check, 1.5 million.
And he had those checks for 3, 4 more years after that.
And he probably had checks of that
You have to
size.
find the right mentality. That person who wanted, that person was motivated by that kind of money. B, that person had the thrill for those kind of accounts. Going and closing small deals. Some people enjoy it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But to go in and say, I'm willing to wait for 2 years and close an account that size, that complex, and deal with so many different executive decisions, you've got to work with so many different personalities.
And typically big game hunters love risk. So Rob Mills, he used to do motorbike jumping. So he would take off and jump 60 feet in the air with his motorbike. And, it requires risk takers, guys. So that's what a big game hunter is all about. I mean, till he fell down once and then, but is he still the risk taker?
No, his wife made sure he doesn't. He had a big accident right before the IBM deal, actually. So his wife has made sure he doesn't
Get on the motorbike.
get on the motorbike ever again.
But he broke like 60 bones.
He's doing great,
But he's doing great. He was great. Yeah.
So, in this setting style, two things confusing me. Where does the market share fit in, and where does the influencer fit into this?
Right. So I'm not sure I understand what an influencer would do. But for a marketer, this is selling. Marketer would help you create the app, maybe help you get into the app. But I think that's where market might continue that. They do not go create the value, do not go create the ROI, go create the lead, go create frankly the deal. That's not what the marketer is.
Usually, let's say I'm a small startup,
Yeah.
5, 6 people, and I can't afford to have all these roles, right? So one person is doing all that, he's doing marketing, he's doing sales, and of course I have my eye on IBM too, so I need to invest some time in that activity. But that's the marketing aspect of the demand part of it. When we talk about the influencer, it's somewhere in between the partner and industry network consultant who's helping shape the direction of the industry, as well as who's not getting commission or any compensation.
Exactly. I mean, I've seen that in many situations. That's being an external person. It's not within your organization. It might be, somebody, I know a company that is doing some stuff in healthcare, gamification of healthcare applications. And they have a few influencers who are very well respected in healthcare and, and understand, how healthcare can be changed and modified through games. So they helped this friend of mine who's the CEO of this company go into large accounts and say, this is why you need to do this. I think those are not generally people within the organization. The 5, 6 person company, you might not be able to afford somebody to bring just an influencer. But if you can find that, I think that's great.
I think it's a ecosystem that has
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
So, as a product, so you are using a also what about this now? How do you find this kind of high-value people?
Which one? Which one?
Where to find that? Yeah, about this. How do you find it?
Okay, so for example, I needed to have actually, a big game hunter when we started selecting it, right? Because, I could not, all the configuration deals were $500,000 and up. So, an ordinary sales guy could not do it. So in my particular case, I take somebody who's a low level or mid level person and give an opportunity to be VP of sales. And when you give VP of sales and bring him into the C level, he's automatically getting 3%, 5% of the equity in the company. So there will be some people who are salespeople who are willing to, take equity uh, and also have a shot at being a VP of sales who can bring in the initial deal and then grow the organization. So they like the opportunity, you know. So that's and you'll always find such people, and typically they are at your competitor or they are typically at your competitor. You'll be able to find them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I mean, you have to. Really, as a VP of sales at Salesforce, I spent even though Salesforce had the resources to go find whoever they wanted, we spent 25-30% of our time recruiting. You know, at least 2 or 3 people a day, and the people you were talking to. So finding the people, and LinkedIn is nothing better than LinkedIn. You gotta go find them, and then you gotta go find the right person who will be enticed depending what stage you are, like whatever metric it is, whether it be equity or high cash or the sale of big deals. That's the type of job is finding that person.
Okay, let's move on to understanding a little bit about what demand creation is, because ultimately the job of a top-notch sales guy is to create a vision in the customer's mind that enables him to really feel pain or a need to solve that pain as quickly as possible, or feel that if he can just do this, he would have a great competitive advantage in the market, a strategic advantage in the market, or he can reduce money that he's losing or wasting away or he's gaining away if he's financially driven. So it's basically demand creation is a very important element that the salesperson does, and that has to be done uh, basically by communicating, by talking. For example, uh, to me, the most fun thing that I've done in terms of demand creation was, during my IPO cycle. It just so happened that I was flying back from Paris to San Francisco, and on IPO cycle they put you in first class. So I was trying the first class from Paris to San Francisco, which is a 8-hour flight. And then I'm sitting on this nice cushy chair, and sitting right next to me, I see this guy who's got a stack of financial documents that he's reading, etc. I said, "What's he reading?" And then I find out that it's a company called Louis Vuitton. So, and it turns out that he's the president of Louis Vuitton, who's stuck sitting next to me for 8 hours, and. So this guy, goes through all his financial documents and all that, and then he has his dinner, and then promptly goes to sleep. And here I'm sitting next to a phenomenal opportunity to sell, and he's going to sleep. So basically, what I did was I also, took a nap, but kept one eye open, waiting to see when he would wake up. And then after about 3 hours, the guy just wakes up and gets tea or coffee or something from the air hostess and all that. So I also stretch out and wake up at the same time, order some stuff, and then I said I pull out my prospectus and all that to show that I'm also reading some important stuff. So and then I just casually turned to him and said, what do you do? And so he said, oh, I'm CEO of Louis Vuitton. So, obviously they sell all the luxury goods, etc., and so on. So I just lobbed a question like, I said the whole market is right now, looking very actively at the internet. A lot of people are looking at the internet to do all the buying. Have you thought about it? He said, yeah, we've been looking at it. And then I said that, at that time, about 10 years back, 14 years back actually, Cisco and Dell were regarded as kind of the leaders in internet marketing. Dell for selling, PCs that are configured right on the internet. You can just configure the memory, the disk drive, the CPU, etc., the box size, and so on, and boom, they send you a PC that is exactly yours. And when Cisco was the other one, that obviously Cisco would do it because they wanted to promote the internet for business use, right? So uh, the CEO was always talking about how business is going to move to the internet and things like that. So these two guys were regarded as the two evangelists for online business usage for the internet. And it just so happened that Cisco had just signed a multi-million-dollar order with Selectica, and Dell had signed $10 million deal with Selectica. So
No, that was my deal.
Dell was your
Yeah.
but there's also who's
They did something.
yeah, okay, divination, exactly. Yeah, you're from Austin. There you go. So basically, both of them were our customers, and so I just said that Dell is doing this, and we have seen their interest in the products explode, and I had some numbers, etc. And Cisco, and a lot of this was in the press also, that because all of them were trying to promote how well their online channels were doing, because Wall Street loved that story, right? And and so I said that with LVMH, there's an opportunity for online selling to become the main channel through which they can sell their products, etc. And the more I talked to him, the more excited he got. And I said that, we are the key engine that's driving all this online buying, because, we do this configuration. The customer doesn't have to worry about, they can only focus on their need. And so, he said that, my CIO will give you a call, next day. And next day, his CIO calls up and says, I don't know why, but the president wants me to send you a purchase order for $4 million. What is it for? So, 3 days later we went public, and I had this $4 million PO from this, uh, from this situation under my belt. But essentially, I ended up creating a need. But because I created the need at the CEO level, it was the highest leverage position. Now, it's very rare that a vendor can get a chance to spend 8 hours next to the captive CEO of a company, right? Typically, you get 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's not easy to create this level of demand in 5, 10 minutes. But, to create the trust, to be able to give him supportive information about Dell and Cisco, and then tell him more about Selectica and all that stuff, and how it could be implemented, and what's the vision about how it would all work. So essentially, um, if you can get a chance to do high-level selling, what are your high-level selling stories?
So, let me just start by saying the demand creation role, frankly, in my opinion, is one of the most toughest and most complex things to do. Usually, people enjoy the thrill of closing a deal, but getting the deal started can be just as exciting and frankly very, very complex. I'll tell you a story. Raj not only created demand, he closed that deal with LVMH as well, which is very rare. But I'll tell you about a story just very recently, about 2 months ago. I don't know if you guys heard of this, what happened within my organization. Comcast and Time Warner Cable are looking at a merger. And I don't know if you saw this video that somebody posted about his experience with Comcast and the customer service that he got. It went viral. There was 10,000 articles created on it, and everybody's not even able to see it.
Yeah.
And as a result, the SEC is now looking to see, they put a hold on the merger to see if this will create, a consumer problem. So one of my guys, one of our demand generation guys, 25, 26 years old, said, this is an amazing opportunity. So he went and found, 100 people in the company that use Comcast. Likewise is based out of New York City. So a lot of Comcast there as well. He found 100 people in the company that use Comcast. Said, all right, guys, I want you guys to go in and start chatting, because that's what we provide with Comcast. We need a different technology. Started chatting, and then, take screenshots of the chats. We took 100 chats, went and looked through those chats, trying to understand what the chats were all about. We have software that can analyze text and come up with some keywords and things like that. and then created a small video that he sent to the CEO. These days, getting to a CEO is not that difficult. It's very easy to find who the person is and connect to them on LinkedIn or find them on any other social media site, understand what they do, and sent them a video saying, did you know this about your organization? These are the 4 key problems we're having. CEO called back. He didn't, but he asked his head of customer service to call back, and we should close hopefully a $4 or $5 million deal this quarter within about a 90-day sales cycle. But this is different way of thinking of demand generation. Another guy I know, use social media to understand what a CEO, actually, he's going after the head of e-commerce. Used to go and buy, always tweeted about the store where he went and had lunch, this restaurant. So he would always go there every Thursdays. So next time he went, this guy said, I want to pay for this lunch. So the guy went and had lunch, and the waitress came and said, your bill's been paid. The guy said, who paid my bill? And small note came and said, I spent 15 minutes understanding who you are. Please spend 5 minutes with me. And the guy was like, I'm more than happy to spend 5 minutes, with this young 25-year-old demand generation. So different ways of trying to get to people. If you personalize it, make it about that person, people will talk to you. So one of the toughest things to do, but if you do it well, it's the basis of what makes it.
So how do you balance being too aggressive and being too pushy? Because a lot of sales guys can be pushy and go into something and say like, oh, there is all this stuff. Everything goes up, like the barrier goes up.
Sure. I would say that's, are you creating value to what that person does? We all want to hear about things that make us better or something that helps us. So when I have seen pushy people, and we all get sales calls all day long, right? It's where it's just like, hi, this is me, this is who I am, I want to talk to you about this, or just when we have 5 minutes. It's like nothing that's important to me. Somebody who's taken the time to understand who you are, about your organization, about the pain your organization is going through, and has put some thought into it. When they reach out to you, it will shine. You will see it. You will see the person understand who you are, understand the value that they provide. And those people will.
So let me add something, which is that during the sales interaction, one is where he's trying to create trust. Where he wants to understand you, he's nice to you, he wants to understand you, understand your needs, etc. Because he's trying to become a trusted advisor. Because he knows everything about his product, his abilities to provide service, etc. And he tries to understand your needs, etc. And if he's a good salesman, the way he'll communicate with you, he'll convince you to share your pain and all that with him, so that he can solve, because he will solve the problem, right? So become the trusted advisor. Now, the other element is to take the transaction into a purchase order, which is what Nagesh is struggling with, and most marketing people struggle with, most engineers struggle with it, which is asking for the order. And that is what weak salespeople or salespeople who are not polished or who are not totally experienced, that is the commonest mistake, because they basically forget that ultimately their job is to get the purchase order. And if they don't get the PO, no point being a trusted advisor. So you need salespeople who can do both elements really well, where they become the trusted advisor, and then once they become the trusted advisor, they should be able to put you in a position where you have to go ahead and make the decision, buy or not buy, right? Because I have seen so many situations, when my wife's buying saris or whatever, she'll, a great sales guy will, become a trusted advisor to my wife and show her all the stuff, and she loves it, and da, 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 da. And then just when I feel that, okay, it's got my wife properly hooked on, he'll say, let me show you 3 more. That's the end of the deal. Because then after another 1 hour, my wife has to run to the next appointment. So that transaction, because closing the order also takes a little bit of time, because you've got to put that prospect under a little bit of stress to pull out the checkbook and see whether, my husband really not get very upset, if I buy one more sari, I got 100 up there already, one more, but, so there's stress. Who minds not seeing, right? Virtual enjoyment of seeing saris is great. But, ultimately the sales guy, his job is not to provide virtual enjoyment of saris. His job is actually to sell something, right? And so if he does not ask for the order, and that's what we're going to learn in negotiation the week after, I'm going to push out, so December 10th, is how do you convert your trusted advisor situation and actually come to the point where you ask for the order. And I've seen lots of kind of big company sales guys, when you hire, they have lost the art of asking for the order. They, because the big company automatically provides the cushion for the order to come in. So they just become trusted advisors. You hire a big company sales guy from Cisco and so on. In my books, they are, punching bags, because they will make you feel good that the customer loves it. Look, I've got this relationship. I bind them. We play golf together. Da da da. No PO. Like, quarter goes by, no PO. Month end, no PO. And to me, salespeople that cannot convert the trusted advisor thing into a purchase order are going to become a big problem for your company.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. I mean, it's an art to go close and create that demand and create that need. Just to add to that, how do you do that, right? Let's take that sari example. When Kalpana is shopping for saris, the guy will say, let me put this one on the side, let me put this on the side. All he's doing is closing the pool. Ask a question. So when do you need a sari by? Oh, you need it next week. Okay, great. We have to do some work on it. It's going to take 4 days. So you need to make a decision now. So you put 3, 4 saris on the side and say, okay, this is nice. This is the last piece left. Try and create that urgency, and then kind of drive you through that and say, okay, these are the 4. Which one do you want? So you're right. Most good salespeople know how to get to that decision. And in a business world, in a technology cell, it's all about ROI. It's actually about two different ways. One is creating value, which is showing them an ROI, showing them why this decision hurts their, or not doing this decision hurts their business. Second way is making it personal. We have actually told people, if you do this, this is how you'll get promoted. This is how you'll go to the next level, by taking ownership of this. And those two, in my opinion, are the most effective ways: creating value, showing them why it helps the business, and making it personal, how to get to that next.
But he said a very important word: urgency. If you do not create a timeline, urgency, give only 2 choices: this side or this side. I'm not going to show you anymore. We don't need any more. We've been through it all. Everything else is much worse. It's not up to your standard. But every time the buyer is trying to kind of figure out a way to get out of the situation of answering, "I'm not going to buy." That's very stressful for any human being. If somebody has spent an hour, being nice to you and so on, you already feel indebted, obligated, like the word obligated, to that person. And most people have that window of vulnerability, and at that time, if you don't close, the opportunity is gone. Right? So it's the same thing you actually create in a business environment. So you create that trusted advisor and all that by doing needs assessment, doing a project proposal, by doing a demo, by flying in your CTO, by doing all of these things are creating, a sense of obligation on part of the champion, on part of the team, on part of the committee. And at that time, I've seen some salespeople say, you know, right when you should be asking for the order, as to by creating the sense of urgency and or by saying that uh, uh, you know we need to get this thing done here by this time, because after this my whole team is going to go and be working on something else or whatever it is. You have to create your logic, because in sales everything has to be logic driven. Uh, it's not fluff. You've got to create logic to support every statement that you make. Right? So don't think that these salespeople are just talking nice words. It's not nice words. It's nice words with logic behind them. Right? So the whole idea is that you try to figure out the logic to get the order. Right? So you make them feel obligated. Then you put a time. Uh, then you give them limited choices and say, do you want a high-end solution or a low-end solution? Do you want something that will give you a quick solution, and then we'll do phase two, phase one, phase two, or we can do the whole thing in one shot, but it'll be a little bit more. But you give them limited number of choices, and you drive it to a purchase order, and that is those are the two elements to answer your question as to what needs to happen during a sales cycle. Yeah.
In the sales cycle, it's more insurance people discount all how it's like.
Yeah, so the question was, okay, now under the heat of the pressure of feeling obligated, the committee or the decision maker has gone ahead and said, okay, I'm going to buy this for $150,000, and you shake hands on that, right? And now any transaction of this size, there'll have to be a contract or some legal document, right? Or there needs to be a PO that needs to be sent in the purchasing department. And obviously, that requires other people to get involved in the transaction. So there's a whole bunch of activities. The sale is not done when you shake hands. The sale is not even done when you get the PO. The sale is not even done when you ship the product and you collected the money. It's really an ongoing, continuous support of the psychological decision that was taken to buy a product that has to be maintained in the organization among all the different stakeholders. So the purchasing department should feel that, yes, there is a time limit. I need to get this thing done. If I don't get the PO in, so the purchasing department needs to know that if they don't send the purchase order in by this particular time, then by the time they're going to delay the whole project. And so all of that has to be communicated to the purchasing guy in a proper way, in something that is, business appropriate, right? Same thing with the VP of Finance, the guy who's saying that, hey, I got to check my budget, I don't have time to look at the budget, all that stuff. The sales guy has to go there and explain as to why this thing needs to be a high enough priority activity for the VP of Finance to go ahead and approve it, right? In a timely manner. So all of those things, that selling has to continue. So getting past the committee decision and shaking hands on the deal or the major items of the deal, yet if sales guys cannot handle the additional detail work that is needed to really bring the deal in, there's 101 reasons why the deal can fall on its face. It can suddenly disappear. Because, competition can wake up, the market conditions might change. Somebody might say that, do we really need to start this project right now? Is that deadline that we've got to do this project, that important right now? Why don't we wait for few months, because I think I've heard that there's some new technology coming. The VP of engineering might say that, I've heard that there is, I just went to a conference and somebody showed up this great new technology. So 101 reasons why, if the salesperson doesn't keep continuously selling in the organization and getting the whole thing closed out. And so that's why you again need the big game hunting. And all the relationships that have been built up over 2 years, the big game hunter is not only talking to the committee, he's also making a list of who else he's going to need. He's going to need the purchasing guy, he's going to need the legal guy, he's going to need to know the secretary of all these guys, he's going to need to know the VP of finance, he's going to need the support staff. He needs to know the whole organization and how it works, so that after he wins the deal at the committee level, he can get the deal all the way through the organization.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It doesn't stop when the deal is in procurement or handshakes that happen. And just to add to what Raj said, to your point, the guy who a good salesperson has anticipated what the potential roadblocks will be and has already worked through that. Frankly speaking, in a large size deal, I will actually remove the ability of the salesperson to negotiate at that point, because you also want to. There will be some. You give it to procurement. Procurement gets paid based on how much they can remove of the deal. That's how they get paid. So you want to push back as well. So you want to make it tough for the salesperson to agree to something, and you maybe come back and make it a little tougher for procurement to get past things done also. So the different strategies depending on the type of sale. If it's a big deal, you want to make it a little tougher. If it's a small deal, you want to push it through quickly. So it really depends on the sales side.
Just a quick question on that. As a salesperson, when do you really decide from being friendly, really solving the problem, to taking the posture, saying, hey, we are taking this too much time, it's not closing? How do you do that? Because some of my engagements have come to that stage for one reason or the other, right? It's quarter end, it's up to next quarter, or something like that. But you can't also be eternally patient, right? And you can't also be eternally a nice guy. So when do you decide saying, hey, Raj, you're giving me a runaround, you need to close this deal? How do you say that?
So you've got to first, there has to be a business case to it. Right? There's got to be metrics, there's got to be an ROI, there's got to be a need that has been defined and accepted by the prospect or the to-be customer. So you and whoever, the sales rep and whoever is selling understands that. So you have to have a mutual agreement first. This is something you want implemented in January, which means we need to start, implementation now. So you need 60 days to do that. So we have that time frame to do it. They start pushing through, then you have to say, hey, this will move out. I've spent this much time, I've spent these many resources, you're going to miss your deadline. You have to make it, I think you have to push a lot on that. And then frankly, some people take a stand. I'll give you a story of Raj. This was when we were doing the Dell deal, and they came back with some absolutely ridiculous numbers, and basically said, you either agree or don't agree. And as a young sales guy, my initial thought was, great, let's agree and let's move the deal forward. I don't know if you remember this, Raj, or not. But Raj basically said, yeah, let's tell them we're done. And I sat there going, oh my God, what's gone into my CEO? Going to kill my commission check here.
No, the thing is, like,
it was the right decision, because they came back, because they understood that, there were certain dates, there were certain timelines, there were certain criteria which they would not fulfill.
Yeah, so in this particular case, now that you just refresh my memory, I think, purchasing guy's job is to try and bring the vendor down, right? And we had struck a deal for $10 million license fee. So, the procurement guy says, hey, I'm sure I can knock 10% off or 20% off. I can make it $8 million. And if you look at the sales guy in my company, he's getting, say, 10%. And he's worked 2 years for it. And he's going to look at it and say that, okay, instead of getting $1 million, I'll get $800,000. I think I'm quite happy with $800,000 commission check, right? So he is going to be okay with that $8 million deal, right? So on the other hand, in this Dell particular case, I had a direct pipeline to Michael Dell. And I knew that Michael Dell was not accessible to the procurement guy who was negotiating with my team. So Michael Dell had already agreed at the $10 million level. He said, okay, you got the deal. But the procurement guy was trying to play hardball and cut the price down by $2 million or something like that, around $2 million or something like that, whatever it is. But I knew that this procurement guy had no access to reach Michael Dell. He's like 10 layers below Michael Dell. Michael Dell is running a multi-billion-dollar company. He's not going to futz around with the procurement guy who calls him up to say, hey, I can save $2 million if you give me 3 more days to negotiate with this vendor. He's got no ability to do that. So, that is really the confidence I have in the deal, so that I could say, look, the deal will come. And, they sent us a contract with $8 million. And, we were a small company. $8 million was good money, But on the other hand, I had the confidence that, I had done the executive level selling. So since I've done the executive level selling, I just, faxed it right back and said, no, this is not the number that we had agreed to. And, it's $10 million is the deal. And, they basically kept us, on the tenterhook for another, till the last 10 minutes or something before, the deal had to come in. And then finally, fax machine started rolling, and the number is $10 million. Right? That's exactly how it happened. Because we were going public, and, I wanted to have this deal in the prospectus. And to have it in the prospectus, I needed to have a hard copy of the purchase order which showed the $10 million. So, because, I was also building my story for the IPO roadshow. That, hey, I got a $10 million deal from Samsung, I got a $10 million deal from Dell, there's all the Fortune 100 companies or the global 500 companies, every one of them is going to have to pay me $10 million. So I'm going to be a monster company and so on. And so I couldn't say one person bought for 10, another bought for 8, another bought for 6. So I was trying to also achieve some of my own objectives about the transaction. But the point is that if you've done the proper sales process inside the whole company, only then you'll have the confidence to see that your deal doesn't get delayed, it doesn't get nibbled away, it doesn't, open the, it doesn't get pushed out forever, all that stuff.
So just to add to that, so give you guys a different perspective on that, just to give a little bit more depth. The key there was, as Raj said, there was so much value created. So just give an idea of what the value to Dell meant. Why $2 million for Dell didn't mean much. Yeah. So Dell built its entire business on supply chain efficiency. That's what Dell direct model was all about. So when we were having the ROI discussion with Dell, the basis was we would shave off 0.5% of inefficiency in your supply chain. 0.5%. That's worth hundreds of millions of dollars to them. So in reality, $2 million doesn't mean that much in their business. So we had created that value so that Raj was comfortable enough to go and say that, hey, we are worth 10 million to you, and we're not going to stand for that $2 million loss. And yes, the contract came.
Yep. Came in the last.
The other side of it, what I also in consulting is knowing your customer environment better, what you mentioned earlier, understanding their architectural roadmap. They also have a deadline to meet. If you get hold of their architectural roadmap, you pretty much know that what's coming down the pipeline and what are the timelines. Other their budget approval cycle. If they don't exhaust their budget now, it's gone.
Yeah.
So department only has a pressure to go spend.
Yeah, these are all excellent points that a salesperson better have a good understanding of. Yes. Oh, thank you.
My question is that all this concept you're talking about demand creation, understanding and bringing the community and the B2B. Can you explain some about how we do the selling or demand creation for B2C market, specifically when you're using the customer instead of mobile application or email marketing? So how do you demand creation or upsell the working?
So if you remember the very first slide that we put up, so it talked about all the different kinds of selling that is possible, right? And essentially, if you have a product where there's low value-added selling, so if it costs like $10 and you're just selling it for $11, so it's a commodity like a cost-driven pricing. In those particular cases, direct sales doesn't make sense because you can't generate enough value for a human being to go ahead and participate and do all this complex selling, right? So in that particular case, you have to use other techniques. You've got your viral marketing, you've got bundle selling, you've got partner selling, you've got all these other systems that are also available for selling. Or if it's just a commodity product, you can just find distributors who will stock it, then your marketing guy generates the demand for the product, and all the customer wants to know is go to Walmart and pick it up, or go to Wiley and pick it up. So that's so basically. So the demand creation is created by, essentially, putting in advertisements that, now we've got a PC that can give you graphics that is, 30% faster, which is what NVIDIA does all the time, right? Or gaming can be better, or whatever. Or the response time of the paddle can be better. So all of those are marketing-driven demand creation, not sales-driven demand creation. Yes.
I have a specific question about the specific application.
Yeah.
When a startup is selling to the likes of Dell, and you will have to create a value if the risk profile of additional is not very high, the typical additional concepts are viable. When I was trying to ask a Tom, they actually had a slide that said they wanted to go back. So the only answer I have is the escrow and all that. But even beyond the escrow, we find the first escrow, but that's not making much. So how do you handle this application when you start with the enterprise? It does not have the risk profile.
Yeah, so this is probably one of the most common objections that comes for a startup. And every startup has to go through the hurdle of, are you viable? Right? So that is, and especially the more mission critical the application, the more this question comes up. Right? And actually, it even comes up for slightly less mission critical because whoever buys your product doesn't want to be left holding the bag if you go under. So basically, every entrepreneurial startup will have to face this viability issue. And there are many, many ways in which you solve the viability issue. So basically, if you have venture capitalists, then typically a VC-run company, VC-funded company is regarded as having a little bit more staying power than other companies. Then the other thing is you can do partnerships. Then you can have service organizations like Accenture or Infosys or somebody like that partner with you so that they are the ones who are going to be around. They're 1,000 times bigger than you, and they kind of take the responsibility of seeing that the product will work, and you sign an escrow agreement so that if you go under, your source code is accessible to them for modifying, deploying, etc. Or so you use somebody else's credibility to get you in, right? So, and over time, once you win a first deal, second deal, references start helping. So it's just a process. So you will face that objection. No reason to get a heart attack when you face the objection, because it's going to be there. In fact, one of the things that I want to teach is that, essentially a lot of preparation is required before every sales call. Before you meet the customer, you have to prepare. And you have to prepare, and you've got to have answers to all the hard questions you're going to face. And if you've just given some thought to it, you'll be able to answer it much better than if you try to answer it by just whipping out an answer on the spot. So, for example, one of our early deals at Selectica was BMW Germany, so that we could configure every BMW. Obviously, high risk situation for the German customer sitting in Munich to deal with a company that had 5 employees, and all their cars were going to be configured with our software. So basically, they actually sent one of the top engineers to Selectica, and we had to basically go ahead and reassure him that we were going to be a company that's viable and that has got lots of reasons why it's not going to go under, right? So we basically ended up creating, because we knew he was coming, we ended up creating all the reasons and organizing all the reasons why he should feel comfortable with. So, for example, we did something called thud marketing. So thud marketing is, we took all the patents that my CTO had and all the documentation that we had and created a pile of documents that was this thick to show that, it wasn't just the software. There was this much of research done over 15 years that was supporting this technology. And that the commitment behind Selectica was not just the 6-month-old company. It was 15 years worth of our CTO's life, which was industry, and he was an industry guru that supported this technology. So, in 3 days, he got convinced, and then based on that thing. So the thing is that preparation is the key to answering tough questions that you'll face. But you do something that in sales we call Ben Duffy. I think we did it. Okay. So Ben Duffy is like you basically get your team and you give everybody a role to play. Okay, you're going to be the VP of engineering on the other side. You're going to be the design manager on the other side. You're going to be the marketing guy on the other side. You're going to be the finance guy. And, the guy who's selling has got to face all the questions that these guys are playing the role of what the customer's committee is going to be formed of in the before he goes into the real meeting. So that kind of role playing is really what prepares you to handle all the situations that come up. Yeah.
Question continuation of that, or maybe even okay. So you're a startup selling to a big BMW. So what if I say, okay, you are giving your supporting material saying that I'm 15 years experience and all this, I have the big project for you. What if you say, I want to do test drive, do it free for me? How would you react? This is in startup, you are not validated exactly. So what is your stand for anybody?
Okay, so one thing you'll find is that big companies hate free. When a small company offers something for free, it means that nobody cares about it. Success or failure is not important to you, and that you don't really value your own product. So, and they have the ability to pay. And when you offer free to somebody who's got the ability to pay, means that it's not worth anything. So, I personally don't particularly care for doing something for free. The only thing I'll do for free is I'll do a pilot for you. The pilot will belong to me. It will not belong to you at the end of it. And you're going to have to give me all your proprietary data about your product, etc. And in order for me to build the pilot, but I'm going to keep the rights to the pilot, so that uh, with the intention of getting the customer obligated to me, right? So I'm basically going to do a free one because I want to create obligation on the other side. And the smart, the seasoned executives or CIOs on the other side are actually going to be totally aware that you're going to make them feel obligated, and they'll say, no, we'll pay. They'll actually say, we will pay and we will keep the IP. Because once they pay, then the IP becomes there. So the thing is that uh, don't use free unless you're going to use it in a very specific way. Okay, we should move on. Okay, guys, and I'm sure the question opportunities will come. Okay, this is an important slide because essentially, you know, this talks about how the management of the company, of the sales management person who's managing all the resources of the company, is going to decide, how he's going to invest his sales development resources. This is really important because at any given point in time, every sales guy will have 10, 15, 20 accounts that are going to result in a PO tomorrow. That's his job. The sales guy's job is to convince his management that his 20 deals are all going to be resulting in a PO in the next month, this month, or by month end. And because, the company only has resources to support the sales cycle in maybe just 5% of all the deals that these salespeople put in front of you. Right? So the important thing is for sales management to know which 5% of the deals they should put resources behind. If there are 100 customers, or prospects, can you do 100 pilots? You can probably do 4 or 5 pilots. If you've got 10 apps engineers or 10, technicians or whatever. So basically, the organization itself is resource limited in terms of which deals it's going to really go after. Right? Because, as I said, before every sales call, we're going to have to go ahead and do planning for the team. So actually, before any sales call, the salesman needs to call a team meeting almost a week or 2 weeks ahead so that he can prepare the right presentation, the right demos, the right ROI analysis, the right metrics, the right delight factor at the end of the sale. So all of that has to be prepared before, by the time he goes and does his transaction, gets his meeting. And the sales management's job is to assess all these deals on these 6 parameters. So number 1 is, how good a job has the sales guy done for assessing the pain in the organization? How well has he sold and created that demand and need for the product? So understanding, whether the pain has been well documented and how the solution of the company can solve that pain. So that's number 1. Number 2 is qualifying the prospect. His budget, his timing, all of that is in place or not. And what is it validated in? Then it's like, who's the competition? Sometimes, you don't want to take on the competition. Let them have a deal. Because it's better to sometimes go after easier deals. And sometimes you say that, okay, for this one deal, I want to break into the telecom industry. I have to take this guy on head to head. And I'm going to go ahead and bet the company to break the competition's hold on the telecom market or whatever. So figuring out the competitive situation. Then the decision-making process. As you saw, the decision-making process, many stakeholders, many people trying to participate in that decision. Then, the person who's got the ultimate power to make the decision. Sometimes the VP of engineering, sometimes the VP of marketing, sometimes the VP of finance, sometimes the CEO, sometimes a manufacturing director. It could be anybody, depending on the customer situation. So knowing who has the power, everybody's got some power, but who has the real power to go ahead and make this transaction happen? And then, being able to pull together your team to go ahead and make the transaction. So the sales guy's bigger job very often is selling within the company rather than selling to the customer. Because the company can make one sales guy's deals happen and another guy's sales deals not happen because he just doesn't get the support from the company.
No, absolutely. I'll give you a story. Oracle. Our biggest competition was Oracle internally, for example. So many different deals happening, getting pricing, getting strategy, getting the right resources. It just take a long, long time. So you have to convince internally to get, internally get the alignment first. But these points are very, very valid. It's very easy. For me, number 5 is key. It's selling to power. If you want to put resources into an opportunity, the sales rep should have the confidence to go back to the executive buyer and say, look, this is what I'm willing to invest to show you that I'm the right solution for you.
Very good.
And in order to do that, we're willing to do this. But in order to do that, I need something from you. It's a give and get. I need for you to have a conversation with my senior executives so that they can give me these resources. And very easy way to see if the person goes, no, I don't want to have that conversation, but you know when to be very sensitive. If they come and say, I'm more than happy to have a quick conversation and walk them through kind of what our plan is and show them that this is something that's very important to us. And then you have that alignment that makes it much easier to do. So anytime we have to put resources in, for me, number 5 is key. Is having that executive relationship where we know that they're serious and they know the resources we're putting in. Because without that alignment, you won't go too far.
You ever run into situations where you were sitting with the CIO, like CXO, because the CIO
All the time. It happens all the time. That's when then you have to make a decision, is that the deal you want to go after? The worst thing, there are lots of opportunities out there. The worst thing is to spend resources on the wrong one. And that becomes a decision that any manager or person running a company has to make. Is that the right opportunity to go focus on? But it's a very common occurrence.
Okay, so let's spend the last 5 or 10 minutes on the RFQ process, because there are some key messages that I want to get across. Because startups, will be getting RFPs all the time. So that is something that typically every customer, especially for a medium to big size deal, has to get multiple vendors to quote, and then they choose one. Now, the first point I'm trying to make is that if, as a startup, you're invited to quote on a request for proposal, the deal was already lost, and you are there just to be, what do you call it? Column fodder. So you want to be a column and fodder. So, so you're called column fodder. So you're one of the 3 columns, and these are the reasons why I'm buying from this, because you've got yes, 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 yes. And you got yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And the last one, most important, might be company viability. And you always know on that being a startup, right? So, and very often, just on that one no, you can do, they knock you off. And they don't even give you a chance to get over that no. So the point is that startups will basically end up losing, let's say, about 90% of the deals where you quote to an RFP response. In my opinion, it's only 99.9%. Almost all deals you're going to lose. Now, the question is, why fill out an RFP when you know you're going to lose the deal? Because essentially what has happened is that your competition actually was brought in on a consulting basis to write the RFP. Your competition actually wrote the RFP. Because no IT department or no customer has the time or the resources to actually write a request for proposal. So typically they hire one of the the guy who's going to win the deal anyway, to write the consulting, write the RFP document, and then send it out for bidding. And essentially, you know who's going to win. The guy who wrote the document. So basically, why do you go ahead and respond to an RFP? So the reason why at Selectica and other companies we've decided we respond to RFPs, because even though we know we're going to lose, is because the RFP is probably the best document of the product requirement, of your product requirements. It basically tells you what your product requirements are from a competition standpoint. It tells you, if you read between the lines, where the competition is strong. And it tells you, you know, you need to have a reporting system, you need to have this kind of database supporting it, this kind of sorting capability, this kind of whatever it is. So you need these, so the RFP actually gives you a roadmap to how you should flesh out your product. Because most startups have only a limited amount of a sliver of the total solution. They don't have the total solution. The RFP gives you an idea as to what the total solution is expected by companies. So essentially, you fill out the RFQ and, you know, you obviously try to win. But when you lose, essentially you tell your team, because you don't want the team to be demoralized. You tell your team, look, we actually learned from this and we got our product to improve so much without having to do all the market research to figure it out. You just got the answers in a silver platter. And so you lose and you learn. You lose and you learn. And after you do this a couple of times, guess what happens? Suddenly you find that an RFP comes along and you can tick, 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 tick. I've got all my features already. So now you are in a position to say, okay, now I need to wage a competitive battle to take on the competition. Even though he wrote the RFP, I'm going to have, I can take him on. Okay, and that's where you have to use the Sun Tzu tactics and all that other stuff that comes from learning how to do competition, to go ahead and surprise the competition, because essentially after losing 3-4 times, you will have figured out where your competition's strengths are and the weaknesses are. Because every time you did a pilot, they did a pilot and they won, you figure out some more data about, you know, what is their real weakness. Because everybody's solution has some weakness or the other. Nobody is a perfect product. Even Google search engine has got bugs in it and has got problems. People point is that nobody has found it. You know, but they're there. We all know them. Otherwise, they would not have 100 people working on improving that product, right? But they just don't tell you that which are the bugs, right? So every product has problems. And the point is that, you know, competition's job is to figure out those problems and then go ahead and exploit those weaknesses. So that is the competition. That is your job as a competitor. And you basically use the element of surprise in order to knock out the competition after you're caught up with them. And once you've done that, you know, if you keep executing your sales strategy in the right way, as we've been talking for the last 2 hours, you can actually create a selling organization that, you know, from that day onwards, just keep winning. Right? So because you now have the best product, you know your competition, you know where you're superior to them, you've got a reference account, and then you basically end up, you know, winning every deal. And I don't know if you were there at the sales meeting where essentially, you know, I called a sales meeting after we won one of these surprise deals at GE Medical. And I told him, I brought the whole sales team in for sales training and said, okay, these are reasons that we beat the competition. Where we had lost to them, you know, 10 out of 10. And then we finally won the 11th situation at the G Medical, but for very legitimate reasons. And then I brought the sales team in and said, okay, these are the reasons. And if any of you loses a deal to Calico from this day onwards, you're fired, right?
Stay far away from
Yeah, we never lost to Calico after that because we never lost a single deal to Calico after that.
You went bust.
Yeah, till they went bankrupt. Here's a company that raised $100 million in an IPO a year before Selectica, and they went bankrupt a year later because we never let them win a single deal once we beat them fair and square at G Medical. So basically, the RFQ process can be frustrating as anything, but it is it's something that needs to be used by startups in order to build, a winning strategy, a winning product.
How long does RFP take in the business? How long does RFP take in the business to write an RFP? Because for us, for us, it takes 6 weeks to 2 months.
That's exactly right. Like an RFP, writing the RFP itself is typically a 3 to 6 month process for a complex business process or whatever, a business solution. And responding to it, will be typically 3 months to do a pilot and another evaluation of another 3 to 3 months. So that's typically it. Do you have time? Then you're going to take the class and get going. So, because so I've got to run home. I've got to go to a birthday party for myself. So, but I think you're an amazingly competent hand. I think Puneet is, just from the days that I was working with him, I just loved his energy, and when I saw him at all of PC Order in that booth, he was the only guy I wanted from that whole, or everybody there because of his just energy and enthusiasm and so on. And he's just grown where he's right now, the top honcho, right? Doing all kinds of amazing situations. So all the slides are here, okay? And I think we can work through this competitive advantage, account management, and dynamic skills. Okay. See, this is how we test our salespeople. Sure. Okay, I'm gonna take this.
How much time do we have, guys?
1 hour. 1 hour plus.
1 hour? Okay, no problem. Sure. Sure. Step back in 5, 7. Let me learn the slides.
Well, thank you for coming on your birthday.
It was by mistake, so.
You're still on.
We share a birthday close to each other.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You want this or?
No, this is fine.
Okay.
Right, that was Prakash just texted me. He says,
I did not bring anything.
Hey guys, we are checking out. But the video will be uploaded, and you should get last week's video too. Okay, it's already been uploaded. Thanks.